minute, hold on. Start the video. You can turn me off, but can't turn me on, huh?
You can mute this.
No, I didn't. I was looking at Marcello. Aí,
Mas ele não começa. Ele entra.
não, ela vai falar.
All right, welcome everyone. This one is a little bit different than most of the Zoom calls. Everyone in the room, so far we have 27 people. You'll all be seeing our screen as we're seeing it with our guests today. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Cheryl Bailey to introduce our guests.
Oh, thanks, Walter. Thanks for everybody for coming today. We're really excited that we could do this because we were supposed to do this last month all together in David Friend. And so actually Walter and I are new in our positions at Berklee, and I came in September and I said, I really want to do an amazing presentation. And what a great way to collaborate and make friends with Walter in doing this. And I'd seen Anat and Marcello in California. We were all teaching out at Stanford, and I saw them present this amazing workshop. And so it was really in my mind, in my heart, to really share this with the Berklee community. You know, Anat, I've known for many years. We kind of ended up in New York at the same time. One of the top virtuosos on their instrument, without a doubt, composer, band leader, phenomenal, awesome woman, amazing. And Marcello is someone who's I've just learned his music through hearing Anat. And Marcello, you're a doctor? Should we refer to you as doctor? So yeah. Marcello, they're joining us from Rio de Janeiro, and Marcello is a professor at the university there in Rio de Janeiro, has developed this incredible curriculum for 7-string guitar. I'm gonna end this and let you hear them play and ask questions of them, and we're gonna learn a lot today. So thank you guys for being here. Everybody, Anat and Marcello and all of our guests.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Walter, for this invitation.
Yeah.
Of course, we would love to be there in person, but this is the second best. And I think we're gonna start with just play a little bit. We'll play 3 songs, and then they're short, and then we'll start talking probably. And you're gonna ask us to play again. Agora?
Tá, tudo
bem. We're gonna play music from the album we recorded of the music of Moacir Santos. We're gonna tell you about Moacir Santos in a little bit. Yeah. All right, thank you. One more and we'll address you all. Oh, it's me. All right. All right. Well, thank you, if you are still there. I know that Walter and Cheryl are there. So good afternoon, or evening, or morning, depends where you are in the world, actually. Very excited to be here. We're both very happy about this opportunity. And I'm extremely excited because I get to play with one of the best 7-string guitar players around. And you guys, I'm not sure you're counting the strings for the guitar players. There are 7 strings on this guitar, and it's such a traditional instrument for the music of Brazil, for choro, for samba, and for many other sounds. And it's a whole language, and it gives Marcello a whole approach to the guitar, like which he's going to talk about, like a real orchestra. So for me, as a horn player, especially as a clarinet player, it's a real treat because the clarinet has this range. It's a large range, and Marcello can be the bass player and the accompanist, and we can intertwine our parts and go play unison in low range or in very high range. So it's really cool. And Marcello had this brilliant idea of taking the music of Marcello Santos and arrange it for the two of us to play. So Marcello Santos is a composer from the northeast of Brazil, from Pernambuco, right?
Yeah.
And he had an album in 1965 that is called, he came out with an album called Coisas, which mean things. and he named the tracks Coisa number 1, Coisa thing number 1, thing number 2, thing number 3, and Marcello Marci wrote mainly for big band, so Marcello had this idea of taking those big band arrangements and transfer them to his 7-string guitar. So basically, Marcello is doing the parts of the trumpets and the saxophones and the trombone and the drums and the bass and the guitar and the piano, and I get to float on top of his groove and all his parts. So he's working much harder than I am, but I fell in love with this music because it's those melodies, they feel to me so eternal, and even though it's really Brazilian roots, there's something. When this album came out, I mean, it really blew everyone's minds because there was something about the tradition of jazz and big band playing and this combination of those eternal melodies that are kind of relaxed on top of this really strong groove. And it's really fun as a horn player to get inside the groove, to become part of the rhythm section, or to just basically float on top of it. So we made a recording together of this music, and we were nominated for a Grammy. And so we played for you 3 songs by Moacir Santos. We played thing number 6, Coisa número 6. We played Coisa number 1, and we played Coisa number 5 that also is called Nana. And before I hand it over to Marcello, we'll play one more. We play Coisa number 10, and then Marcello will show you magics. No pressure. Can you, and you guys, I hope you can hear okay, because this is our first webinar. So I hope you guys. Okay, amazing. Cool. Yay. Yeah. Technology works. Excellent. So here comes thing number 10, Coisa número 10, and then we move on. All right, darling, you got it.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here with us. I'm going to share screen with you to talk about some basic topics that I find important when approaching Brazilian music in general, and also that were important for our project, on our project. So I hope you can see it on your screen. So beginning with the relationship between the rhythmic patterns and the pulse. And the Brazilian guitars is an instrument that can clearly show it, because one of the things we do is to adapt rhythmic patterns from percussion instruments to the guitar. And a good example is the pattern played in the samba context by the tambourine, which, by the way, is like this one in my hand. It's different than the American tambourine. There's no jangles on it. And okay, so this is the pattern. It's written in 2/4, but I'm gonna count off 4 beats up front. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and if you relate it to the pulse, it's like this. And one of the most well-known ways to adapt it to the guitar is the way João Gilberto does. He simply plays the pulse with the thumb and the tambourine pattern with these 3 fingers. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, but when you incorporate this way of thinking, you start to realize that a lot of grooves that sound different one to the other actually come from the same pattern. So the same pattern that João Gilberto uses for this groove, João Bosco uses for this groove. 1, 2, 3, 4. And Rafael Rabelo uses for this groove. 1, 2, 3, 4. So they sound different, but they all come from the same pattern. And this pattern is also interesting because it gives us the sense of 4. So in Brazil, we write most of our charts in 2/4, including samba and bossa nova. But in reality, the melodies of the songs can be taught in 4 beats, right? Like, se você disser que eu desafino amor, toca de tatu, linguiça e pai, pois é bu, right? And the cycle of the tambourine pattern repeats every 4 beats, giving us this sense of 4. And another thing is that if you start in the second bar, you play the same, but the pattern changes, and you will notice that some songs call for the first pattern, and others for the second. So that's a very important pattern in Brazilian music, the tamborim pattern. Another example is the pattern of pandeiro. Pandeiro, this instrument here, which is also used in Brazil in a very particular way. And this is the rhythmic pattern of a type of samba called partido alto. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? And again, if you think about the pattern with the pulse, it's like this, and you can adapt to the guitar the same way João Gilberto does. So João Bosco, another great composer, did that in this song. So this is the João Bosco groove for Partido Alto. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, so pulse, thumb on the thumb, and rhythmic pattern in these 3 fingers. But you can also do the in a different way. You don't play the pulse at all, and you do that's the same way like we do in the pandeiro, where the pandeiro plays when you play the thumb on the pandeiro. I'm gonna play on the guitar, and the other fingers on the pandeiro I'm gonna play on the guitar. So 1, 2, 3. Right? So this is a very common way to approach those rhythmics on the guitar. And coming back to our project, we'll see that it's also the way Moacir Santos composes and arranges his own music. So if you see the scores of his songbooks, instead of being a regular lead sheet with melody and harmony, the scores present melody, harmony, and the rhythmic pattern in a way that is really a part of the composition. So some of the arrangements from our album are based on this idea of adapting the original rhythmic pattern to the guitar to build the groove. This one is called Outra Coisa, which is the title of our album. Sounds like this. So the idea is to build a groove adapting the rhythmic pattern and then add the melody and the other elements, but always keeping the groove, right? Another example, this one is called Mother Iracema. Again, melody, harmony, and the rhythmic pattern. So sounds like this in the original recording. If you compare the original score with the guitar arrangements, you see that when there is a pause on the original pattern, the guitar fills in with ghost notes, bass notes, and percussive effects, which lead us to the next topic, which is filling in all of the subdivisions. And to talk about it, I will play for you a song from this album, which, by the way, is a great album that you should
check out.
Elise and Tom, Elise Regina and Antônio Carlos Jobim. And the arrangement of this song is based on this rhythmic pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pa 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 pa. So I'm gonna play for you the recording and ask you to pay special attention to the drummer. All the Paulo Braga, right? All the musicians are playing this pattern, but the drummer is also playing the other subdivisions with the cymbals and the treble register. So pay attention. So this is the pattern, but what's really happening is something like this. Tats, 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 right? With all the subdivisions. And in reality, this is also true. This also happens when with the tambourine example. This is the pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. But a percussionist, a real percussionist, normally plays the other subdivisions with this finger here in the back, on the back. So normal note, ghost note. So it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Which also can be written like this. There's also a scat that shows that this is effect. It's like this. Tek 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 telek tek tek telek tek 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 telek tek tek telek tek 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 telek tek tek telek tek 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 telek tek tek telek. Right? So I'm singing all of the subdivisions with different intentions for each one. And there's a track on our album where we used this concept. It's called Amphibious, and originally sounds like this. So in our arrangement, we didn't use actually the rhythmic pattern. The idea was to take the melody, pa para pa para pa para 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 pa pa, and fill in all of the subdivisions. Tats tarats tats tarats tats tarats 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 tats ta. Right, so that's the result on the guitar. Sounds like this. Right, so the other subdivisions are filled in with notes of the harmony that are more handy. And it can be a normal note, a ghost note, a bass note, either on the beat or on the upbeat. It doesn't matter really. The groove comes from the fact that you're playing all the 16 notes. And what's interesting about it is that I'm playing on the guitar, but it's on one note at a time. So it's an effect that can also be done on a wind instrument. And Anat does that at the end of Mother Iracema. So even if the guitar was not playing the groove, that effect made by the clarinet already sets the groove, giving the flavor and the swing, right? So, speaking of clarinet, back to Anat. I'm gonna exit my, yeah, please. Okay. Here we go.
Hi.
We have some questions if you want to
Sure.
field that from Marcello. This is from our faculty, David Newsom, who's a huge fan of yours.
Yes,
And
we know him.
Hi, David.
Yeah, good. So he is asking, is tuning the 7th string to A something you've used specifically for these transcriptions? He said he'd love to know more about the process for transcribing and arranging the Santos pieces.
Well, it was interesting because my process usually is when I want to do some arrangement of some song, I transcribe from the recording. I never trust scores actually. So I always transcribe from the recordings. and then I need to forget about the recording to have my own idea, right? And I know the music of Moacir Santos for many years. One of the first recordings that I've heard of guitar recordings was Baden Powell recording. Baden Powell was a student of Moacir Santos, and he was the first artist to record Moacir Santos. He recorded Coisa Número 1 e Coisa Número 2. So I know these songs for many years, but I never came with the idea of how my guitar could fit there. I thought there was I don't know, I couldn't figure out. And then once reading the songbook, this scores that I just showed you, I realized that it fit perfectly for the 7-string guitar. Like if it was like if it was composed for the instrument. So normally when you do arrangements for guitar of compositions that was composed for other instruments, wind instruments, the first thing you do is change the tune, right?
The key?
The key, sorry, the key, change the key. And in this project, I only changed the key of one song, so it's really rare. So even songs that in B flat, I mean keys that is not so normal on the guitar. I tried which would be the normal key on the guitar, and at the end I realized that on the original key was better, sound better. So it was a surprise for me. So that was more or less like this. It started with the score, realizing that was really handy on the guitar. I didn't change keys, just one. And what I did was to change the tuning of some songs. Like I use in this project, I use the 7-string. The guitar is counted from here. This is the first, second, third. So this is the 7. The 7th string is the lower string, right? And normally in Brazil we tune it in C. It's not in A. I know in the United States people use in A, but traditionally here in Brazil is on C. So I mostly play on C, but I also use on B, on A. So this project has a lot of songs on A. And also there's one that I tune the 7th string on A and the 6th string on F, which is unusual too, because is a key of F minor. So the tuning in this project really helped a lot, right? So
yeah,
I
good
hope
answer.
I could
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah, thank you. There's another question here from
Yep.
Tal Gordon. Just question about the song forms. What are the structures of these traditional Brazilian songs?
Well, I guess they vary. Depends, because what we play is it's almost to me those Moacir Santos songs. They're a little bit like jazz tunes. They have like many times it's like some kind of an AABA or really traditional something that would be from people coming from the American songbook. It would be much more common, but there's different traditions, and there is it depends from which state in Brazil you come from, and it depends what genre you're playing. If you're talking about choro music, the forms they are most common, like there are 3 parts, and there's like A B B A C C A. It's a lot of a rondo form. If you think of samba, is a lot of time is like it's completely through composed song with a repeated part. And if you think about music from Minas Gerais, it's through composed many times. It's completely with harmonies that there's nothing traditional about them. So it really, this is a very wide question, and I gave a very brief answer. I'm sorry, but the Marcello Santos is more standard, like I would say. Did it make sense?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Wow. Now we have a question from our chair emeritus, Larry Bayonne. Thank you, Larry, for stopping by. And his question is for you, Anat. He asked, did you work on the percussion instruments to get that great feel for this music? And maybe I would ask you that too. Do you recommend that for somebody who really wants to get into this music, to maybe approach it from the percussion?
Yeah, well, I think it's there are two things that I did in order to get into this music, and also in other music from South America, because I was born and raised in Israel, and my heritage is from Poland, and it's a very different kind of swing. So it also 2/4, but much more square. So where I come from, people clap on 1 and 3, not on 2 and 4. So for me, to learn the music, I mean, before I got into the music of Brazil, I got into the music of Afro-Cuban music, or different music from South America, and it all had, each country has different syncopation and different rhythmic approach that I felt that knowing the culture, knowing the rhythms, and trying to dance the music is extremely helpful in order to learn more about how to feel, because as my friend Jovino Santos says, you want to incorporate the music, and the word corpo, body, is inside the word incorporate. So to incorporate, you really should be on your feet and move to the music. And I remember that when my friend Achilles Baez, a fantastic guitar player who taught at Berklee for a second, invited me to play the music of Venezuela, and I got into the Venezuelan merengue, and that is in 5/8, or they call it drunken 6/8 or 5.5/8. And I remember walking for weeks. I was walking on the street going 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3. I was like, couldn't figure out how to feel the music. So for me, any kind of music that I play, I need to feel it, and in order to be able to play. And yes, the answer with the Brazilian music, when I moved to New York, and I used to play at Cafe Wa with the brazuca, with the Brazilian band, and sometimes there were horn parts and sometimes there were no horn parts, and there's nothing better to do when there are no horn parts than to grab a percussion and learn how to play it. So I realized that this instrument, the tambourine, is super important, and I learned a little bit how to play the pandero and realized that even the 16 notes are not completely straight, and to try to of course go to the source. I came to Rio de Janeiro. I am in Rio de Janeiro now, and try to figure out the groove of the people, because it's the people that make the music. It's the sound of the trees. It's the sound that the monkeys make. It's a certain, like, the way the leaves move. You can feel bossa nova by listening to nature. So it's a lot of, wow, I said a lot of things in this answer. I hope it made sense.
That's a great answer. We have 2 guitar questions. Maybe I'm going to take them out of order, because I think the first one will be pretty easy to answer, and then the second one is more maybe to demonstrate something. But also our faculty member, Jonathan Wheatley, is here, and he has a question. He also plays 7-string guitar as well.
Nice. Yeah.
He asked, Marcello, do you carry your own guitar microphone, or do you trust the sound crew at your concert? When do you place the mic? So maybe you have some advice about dealing with that beautiful acoustic guitar when at concerts?
Nobody trusts the sound man. Okay, never mind.
Yes, I do. I said I don't trust scores, but I don't trust mais ainda.
Sound guys?
Eu
I
confio menos ainda.
I trust less.
I trust even less the sound. That's a joke. Sorry. So I carry my own microphone, my own guitar, my own microphone. This one DPA, 2011.
No meshy.
Yeah. This is the guitar that never leaves my home. So you're having the opportunity to listen to it. And normally I travel with another one. This guitar that I travel with has also a pickup. I don't like it all, but it has, so sometimes it's necessary.
Which pickup is it?
It's a RMC. So what I try to do always is, if needed, I use the pickup just on the monitors. If need monitor, sometimes I play without monitor, but and try to use just the microphone to the PA, right? So I love this microphone. There's another one here. It's 4011, and I tried the guitar. I prefer the 2011.
So those are the DPA mics?
DPA, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. They sound beautiful.
Yeah.
I know also Anat uses that on her.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I use a DPA also on the clarinet. Not right now,
Yeah.
because it's a clip-on, so you'll hear all the clicky.
Yeah.
But as somebody that stands by the sound guy when Marcello is doing sound check, the pickup does. I mean, if the whole has a natural good sound, then the DPA just gets perfectly the sound of the guitar, and it sounds pristine, and it really it's perfect. But it's amazing because every room is different, and sometimes the DPA just doesn't work. Just the something in the frequencies. So the pickup comes very handy, especially when you want to push the understanding of the 7-string guitar that you're playing. That you said that you're playing. It's not a bass it's like a bass player, but it shouldn't be too boomy. Some people put like a lot in the subwoofer, and it sounds bizarre. So you have to. It's good to have another set of ears, or carry your own sound guy with you, because it's a bizarre concept for a lot of sound guys. The 7-string guitar, and
it just people is not used to the type of sound I like, so it's sometimes it's hard to explain.
Yeah, to figure out how to keep the beautiful classical sound, but also have this kind of roughness of the added 7-string. I'm with you
So Anat helped me a lot on sound checks. So I bring the DP8 and Anat.
And a big baseball bat. No. Be nice. So okay, so here's a question from Omozuka, and so this is also a guitar question. They are asking, what are some good exercises to expand your chord triad vocabulary against the bass lines?
What a good exercise to expand your say it again?
Chord and triad vocabulary against the bass line. So maybe it's asking like how to get that groove. What's a good foundation study to get that type of groove, like a simple groove with the chords?
Well, that's a question that Anat can also answer, because she knows a lot about the bass lines, right? The 7-string.
Well,
but I'll try. For me, it's right to change it, right?
No,
I'm sorry. I changed the microphone. Sorry. I'm not touching it. So for me, I'm going to talk about the basics, okay? For me, the basic thing about this language here is to understand that the way of thinking the harmony, right? To really understand the difference between something like this Seu garçom, faça o favor de me trazer depressa. This and this. Seu garçom, faça o favor de me trazer depressa. Right? So using either the tonic of the chords or the inversions, right? So that, and this is a good example because if you play the chords in the tonic position, how do you say that?
Root position.
Root position, it's going to be the same as a melody. So and if you use the inversions, I'm not changing anything, just inverting, using the inversion. Right? It's changed a lot. So the whole language of this guitar is based on that, thinking the harmony with the bass line. And I think it's very important to understand that it can sound basic for most of you, but sometimes people don't understand this concept. And I've seen a lot of people from out of Brazil, even in Brazil too, that come to me. Oh, and I want to know the bass lines. So, okay, play it for me, and the person play as a normal accompaniment of the guitar, and then comes the event of a bass line in some part of the song. But during the song, he's not thinking in the harmony in this way I'm talking about. So for me, the first thing for this language here is to pay attention for that, for the way the bass can make with the harmony. The harmony can think the harmony from the bass lines, and then comes the phrases itself, right? Another thing is that so there is. I'm gonna give you an example. There's a famous bass line of Gino Sete Cordas. This is the root of
Gino Sete Cordas. Dino, 7 chords. Seven.
Yeah. So. So there's some things here. Speaking of the guitar here, the way he think the fingering, which is also a particular way here, because he always think the fingering based on the chords, not on the scales, right? Because electric guitar, something it's more common to think of the shapes of the scales, right? I think. But 7-string guitar always think about the chords. So he can, even if you don't play the chord, he knows, he's thinking about this shape. He can, even if he doesn't play the chord, he's thinking this is a G with the bass on E. Do. I can, even if I don't play the chord, but I'm thinking of the shape of the chord. So, well, the foundation, the roots, the better advice for me is to transcribe Gino Sete Cordas. This guy that's make phrases like this.
How do you spell his name?
Gino is D-I-N-O.
Dino.
Sete Cordas, 7-string and
Yeah. 7-string.
So you want to play 1-0 just the
Yeah, we can, but I was thinking, do you play the harmony of Murmurando, just the beginning?
Pode ser.
So the another, the cool thing, and how if I may add just a couple of things, how choro really helped me get the harmonic understanding better is because of what Marcello said. The way the 7-string guitar keeps playing inversion, the harmony is almost like more like a let's say classical harmony. So if you would get you play a jazz standard, and you'll have like 2 bars.
Hello, everybody. Looks like we have a little technical difficulty here. They just had a blackout and they will be back in a moment. So in the meantime, I guess we will just hold on and they'll be back. They're logging back in. Hope everyone's enjoying so far. From the comments, it looks like everyone's having a good time. Let's see. If I was prepared for this, I would have their music queued up. Just bear with us for a minute. Well, while we're waiting and we have the chat open, we have a lot of people here from the Berklee Woodwind department and also the guitar department. Does anyone have any questions for Cheryl Bailey while we're waiting? Put you on the spot.
Yeah, well, I mean, I play in Anat's 10-tet project, so it's been amazing to work with someone on her level. I mean, as a person and an artist and composer, band leader, so that's definitely why I was excited, when I came here to be able to find a way to get her and Marcello here, because I think that she embodies so many incredible qualities that I myself have been inspired to work with her as a leader, and again, we've known each other for many years from the scene in New York, and we both kind of ended up in Manhattan at the same time, and we would run into each other at the Zinc Bar and stuff, and we always had just a really great rapport, and again, even back then, I mean, she was playing saxophone. That was before she even played clarinet. She started playing clarinet, at least, being out there as a clarinetist much later. She was always play saxophone, and of course, she has a very humble demeanor about that, because I often ask her about it, and she says she's too lazy to carry the tenor, and the clarinet fits in her bag. So
she's not wrong there.
So yeah, maybe it's necessity is the mother of all invention.
All right, let's see here. It looks like they may be back. Let me make sure I can get them back in the.
All right, the
Yes,
voice
we are
is
back.
here. Vijay's
All
back.
right, there you
Yay,
go. Uh-oh.
We got promoted to a panelist.
All right, here comes your video.
Okay, he's gonna do it. He's gonna do it.
Got it?
Yay.
Perfect. All right.
All right. So I hope we didn't lose you guys for too long, but we managed to come back. Can you guys hear us?
Yes.
Yeah,
Excellent. So I was just starting to say that that I learned from playing choro music. Choro music, by the way, it's I call it the first urban music in Brazil. Music from the turn of the last century, like 1870s, and it's awesome music. It's great. It's perfect. We can talk about it in length, but I will not do it right now. However, that's what brought me back to play the clarinet. And I did get to hear Cheryl's last comments, and it's true. I got lazy to carry my tenor saxophone because this is much easier. And and you can hold
Sorry,
it.
I lost you on that one.
Well, you know, I carry my mouthpiece, and but anyway, so there's a lot of things about I love about choro music, but we going back to that answer about the harmony. So for example, there's one choro by Fonfon, which is a funny name even for Brazilian people. So a choro called Murmurando, murmuring, and the melody, I mean, I learned about the structure of the harmony listening to the 7-string guitar and the way it inverts the chords and the way the harmonies, because the 7-string guitar it's playing those bass lines they call bacharia, but also playing the chords. So he's grooving on the guitar and also playing the bass line, and also gives the whole completion. He fills in whatever I'm not playing. He fills in the lines and also fills in the whole energy of the song and the trajectory of the way the section is going, and also doing all the modulation to the next section and making the calls. And you'll know if you're repeating an A section or going to the B or going to the C section by what Marcello is going to play on the 7-string guitar. And then I'll say, oh yeah, he's, you know, if we're going from you'll make a modulation to go to the next section. So it's super important to whoever wants to learn about choro music and about in general. It's the language for me. The language of samba and choro is in the 7-string guitar. So I definitely urge you to check it out and to transcribe those or play with people that play those lines so you can get that language. So this is a song Murmurando. Let's play it. So puta. I'm going to play just the beginning of the A section. When the light went out, we had a second to decide what we're going to do. So we do just regular, or you do the 2 bars? Okay. So that's the way the harmony is moving. Unlike if you will get it like on a, you know, in the just play like 2 bars of D minor and then 2 bars of it will sound very static and so you'll see how with just playing you can still play the groove, but with no bass line it sounds completely different.
And doing that.
Yeah.
So right, so roots on the root, right? And the difference is so the same harmony, but thinking of the bass
Yeah, and
way
thinking
up.
of the bass, but also gives the whole song this energy of something that is the suspense, and there's something, a certain trajectory of
Yeah.
the music. And if you didn't even go, if you just play completely 2 bars of D minor and 2 bars of G minor,
Okay.
like without the five, because like you would see in the real book. So it loses the whole concept of that music, of what choro is. So those inversions and the question about the triads. I mean, this is key. So yeah, transcribe those 7-string guitar lines in choro. I hope
Hey,
that was
Anat,
a
I have a
We-
question for
yeah.
you. Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, because you played saxophone and then all of a sudden, you were playing clarinet. Do you have any advice for folks that, saxophone players that are going to clarinet, because you play clarinet as if that was, your instrument all the time. And I've heard you switch back and forth that. And this summer I heard you just play amazing on soprano. So anyway, maybe you have some thoughts about how is there a different, there's got to be how do you approach developing that, I guess.
Wow. Well, yeah, don't play the clarinet. It's too hard. It's hard to say. I mean, it really depends on what are your circumstances. They're two different animals. I mean, I still feel like in some situations, I feel the saxophone more than the clarinet, but the idea of practicing, like any horn, you practice and you until you find who you are. This is it's a life research on any instrument. The clarinet is a completely different beast than the saxophone. I don't know how it happened. I came to Berklee College of Music 20 something years ago to study as a tenor sax player. I just wanted to turn off the light and turn on the candle and put train and just go, "Wah!" Just, scream my heart out and figure out, and follow all the tenor players. And then I became a clarinet player. And it wasn't my intention at all. And I really don't know how it happened, but I do feel, sometimes when you sit down and you kind of play with your fingers and you imagine a song, and I realized that all these years, even when I was playing saxophone, I was always doing the fingering of the clarinet, and I play clarinet before saxophone. It stayed part of who I am. I feel I can be who I am when I play the clarinet, somehow, and that's a confession just between you and I, because it's just us here. Obviously, I don't see anybody else. But I feel like when I play the tenor saxophone, I mean, it's a good thing and a bad thing, but I feel there's the ghosts, the history, this heavy, like I'm feeling like this the presence of everything, of the demands of the instrument, and somehow with the clarinet I feel it's easier for me to find who I am, and for the clarinet to just to express, to play the way I hear it without any preconception of what it should be. Maybe because I don't know why. I mean, the clarinet has its own history and its own heaviness, and of course, it has a whole classical world of people that perfected the way to how to play it, and which I'm no way near it. But it's I don't know. Did I answer any of what you asked? I'm not sure, but was a certain confession here.
Perfect. I have a couple questions that I'm going to read to you from the Q&A in the chat that have come up. First of all, greetings from Malaysia. Greetings from Tel Aviv. People saying hello. The music is beautifully rich, warm, and inviting, making my day today. But there is a question here from Kurt Shoemate, and this can be for both of you. How much improvisation is contained in your music?
In mine is mostly improvisation in what I do, because improvisation. It's not always. It's not. It can be just my own way of finding how to play a melody. Playing choro is the art of it is not the improvisation, is how to embellish a melody, which is a whole form of improvisation. The same thing of how you present a melody when you play a jazz standard or we play any melody, you make it your own. But I like to I always, there is the written parts and the parts I come to and go back to, because those are for me the anchor of a song or a certain goal of like where improvisation, as far as the structure of a song, sometimes there are a planned part as far as the construction of a song. But I like to just go for an idea, and I'm okay with falling flat on my face. I have no problem. I have no problem of making myself be silly, and I don't, if people make fun of me or they laugh at something I do. I laugh when I try to play something even in a live show, and I'm just going to go for it. And if it doesn't come out, then it doesn't come out. And hopefully it's not going to appear on YouTube forever, which sometimes it does. In that case, I regret I did that. But anyway, there's a lot of improvisation in what I do.
Well, for me, I mean, I love improvisation, but the main focus for me is the arrangement. So what we are showing here, like that the excitement of finding a tune that I like, and I feel that I can play, that I have some new idea for that, or composition to compose. Like I love to stay here, having ideas here, even if I don't if I don't go to the stage and improvise, which I love to, but I love this situation here. Stay home, having ideas, and for me, it doesn't really matter that if it's an idea that I had here, and then I'm gonna show to the world, or if it's some idea that's happened in the stage. So, but I'm gonna tell you a story. I prepared this project for 1 year.
Our album.
Oh. I spent 1 year here in this room having ideas and focusing on the guitar and Anat. And she showed up on straight to the recording studio, and sight reading, just learning and record, improvising, and that's the album. But eventually she enjoyed the result, and eventually we got some gigs. And then she told me, well, but you need to improvise. So I'm trying.
Beautiful. The next one comes from Jim Kelly. Sounds great, guys. Marcello, why do you think low C is the tradition for the seventh string?
It's not that I think. It's the first guitar players in Brazil definitely used Tucci before Gino, and Gino, they established this this. Recently, there's a lot of young guitar players that started tuning on B, which makes more sense in the Yeah. But it's recent. The first one, the really first ones, Tucci, Dino, Rafael Rabelo, Rogério Caetano, they all play on C. So
Okay. I might have to ask you to send us a little note about those names so that we can pass them on to everybody.
Oh yeah, sure. We'll write them down for you.
Okay.
It's true because it's hard to hear, right? And I as a foreigner,
Yeah.
remember when I started to play choro, and people would just say the names of the songs, and if I saw it written, I knew what it was, but I couldn't understand what you say, how to translate or how it's written. We'll send you a list.
Thank you very much. I'll pass it on to everyone here. The next one, this one comes from one of our graduating seniors who is a clarinetist department, Ben Cousin. Anat, you've played so many styles. How do you separate your practice to be able to feel like you are honoring that form of the music enough to perform it without spreading yourself too thin?
That's an excellent question, which I never thought about. You know, I don't practice on the clarinet. I don't practice a style. What I practice is a vocabulary. I practice the instrument. I practice my tone and to have different vocabulary of sounds. I practice articulation so I can play, the like a Ben Webster, and I can play, choro with the sharper articulation. I practice the technique of the instrument, and I practice time, and it's a never-ending process. And I practice harmonic ideas, and I practice thinking in real time, and basically all of that allows me, when I'm in a moment, to be a chameleon. I love chameleon musicians, people that you just throw them into some water and they'll adjust. Maybe it comes with the territory of who I am and my heritage, but I think we need to be prepared for any situation, and I think that's what I also love about jazz musicians and people that they're ready to hear it and to understand it, to analyze it, and to react. And you like a great ball player, you have to be all the time have to follow what's going on, and you can't just stand there and wonder. So you got to practice your awareness and practice being on top of your craft, so you're ready. So basically I get to situations and I just try to analyze how to not to step on anybody's toes, and how to, in the beginning, I try to imitate exactly what other people are doing. And then slowly, when I am accepted, I try to find who I am and slowly push the envelope a little bit. So that's kind of my process. Make sense?
Makes sense to me.
Okay.
We have one more question before we let you guys get back to some. This is from one of our professors in the department, Harry Scholar, who's a clarinet professor. And he asks this for you, Anat. Thank you for your thought about clarinet. As a clarinet teacher at Berklee, I feel much the same. You both sound great, and thank you. Oh, here's the question. Okay. In the 1980s, I studied with Jimmy Giuffre, and I think I hear influence, but I don't know for certain, of course. Has Jimmy Giuffre had an influence on your playing?
Well, I think it's hard to hear somebody and then not be influenced when you hear somebody with such a strong voice. So yeah, of course it's there. It's not, but I think the influence on my sound are coming more from tenor saxophone players rather than clarinet players, because I was really focusing on the tenor saxophone, and then I basically steal some techniques from the saxophone into the clarinet, and basically, I will do what the way I was taught to play the clarinet is a no-no, but I will do it because there's nobody here to tell me it's wrong. So, maybe instead of like, okay, that's not a really good tone, but okay. Okay, and then. I don't think any clarinet player will teach you to puff your cheeks and to put air in your sound on purpose and to use vibrato. And this is something that as a saxophone player, I do it. And this is what some people, Tony Scott and, Jimmy Giuffre would do it. And it's certain like breaking the rules. And I think if you're okay with that and you're not afraid that it's going to ruin your classical chops, which it might, then you can start experimenting, I guess. And for some songs, I cannot play a ballad with a strong articulation and with a straight sound. I need to put the air and the feeling inside it. So let's say I play Choro Baixinho. Here is a song written by it's a song by a clarinet player called Abel Ferreira, which I can also send the name, and it's called Chorando Baixinho, crying softly. I'm going to play just the beginning, maybe. There were some examples.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Marcelo. That was beautiful. We never played that song together.
All right. What does he say? Oh, he says that he thinks it's very interesting because Jimmy told him his influences for clarinet were also saxophonists.
Well, great then. I'm not an original. Yay.
See? Oh, man. Beautiful. Well, do you guys want to play anything else?
Yeah, we can play another song, and then if there are no more questions, we'll go our separate ways. Or
perfect.
Shall we play? What do you want to play? Okay, we're gonna play a choro that. We're gonna play a choro that I wrote. It's called "Waiting for Amalia." Amalia is my niece. She's Avishai's daughter. If you are familiar with the family, Walter, and when I was in Rio when Avishai's wife went, and then when they went to the hospital to deliver the baby, and I was like wanted to know what's going on, so I just wrote a song. Meanwhile, so it's called "Waiting for Amalia." It's a choro. It has 3 parts, and it's in the tradition of choro. So count the sections and the modulation. And for some reason, I wrote it in E major. I never met clarinet players that write in E major.
Yeah, it's a guitar.
So it's a guitar key, but I don't know what was in my mind. But anyway, it sounds like this.
Ready?
Thank you for clapping.
Of course. Well, thank you both so much for being here. We really appreciate it. On behalf of
you.
the woodwind department, the guitar department, it's been a real pleasure having you both.
You guys, thank you so much. This is as alumni of Berklee, this is a real treat to be able to come back and give some back. Berklee has been an important part of my life and made me. Actually, I probably wouldn't even be here right now with Brazilian music because all my Brazilian friends that were at Berklee at the same time that I was there, those are the people that made me fall in love with the music and made me play their music and other kinds of music. So it was a mind-opening experience beside everything I learned and the inspiring teachers. So the community, the people, I hope we all get to go back and hug.
Yes, hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah. So thank you for inviting us.
Thank
Of
you.
course, it's been our pleasure. So from everybody here, lots of thank yous coming through the chat room. So thank you.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So what do we just
Thank you. This is the weird part. Now we just kind of go away, I guess.
We just
click
leave the
goodbye.
meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll all just leave. All right. Well, thank everybody for coming.
If we don't leave, you can't.
Yeah, no, we could just we just stay here.
That's like what happened the other day. It was like, okay, and then everybody just stayed and made jokes.
All right.
Some chats here.
All right. See you guys.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. I'm gonna do this.